It brings me no joy to tell you guys that Elizabeth Warren and Gavin Newsom may have just lost their complete minds right now. The senator from Massachusetts is talking about Jimmy Kimmel and is declaring war on Nexstar, while Gavin Newsom's California, unbelievably, is preparing to pass a bill that would silence speech they do not like from social media platforms. I am not kidding. And you know what? There is more that I want us to talk about. So welcome back to the Moreno Show. I hope it finds you well. If you like having conversations like this, if you think they matter, please consider liking, subscribing, and let's jump right in. So Elizabeth Warren hops her way over to X and blasts Nexstar, accusing them of censorship and corruption. Why? Because they preempted Jimmy Kimmel's show. But here's the reality. If you guys could handle it, which I'm sure you can, Jimmy Kimmel wasn't censored. He was held accountable. He had bad ratings, FCC issues, a comment that crossed the line. These are normal consequences to running a network. And people get fired for a lot less in the real world. And although it was heard around the world that Jimmy Kimmel would be back on air today, look at what happened. Sinclair and Nexstar decided to double down. They say they're pulling Jimmy Kimmel off the air because of his ill-timed and insensitive comments, but they also let everyone know that the show will be available nationwide on multiple Disney-owned streaming products, while their stations will focus on continuing to produce local news and other programming relevant to their respective markets. Benny Johnson says that this move will keep Jimmy Kimmel's lies out of 100+ million American households. So this is exactly why Warren is all up in arms, because Kimmel was the left's free speech warrior, if you could believe it. So if you ask me, this was simply a business decision to serve your audience the best. If Jimmy Kimmel was found to stir the pot one too many times, they have every right to decide that it is no longer in their best interest to serve this content. Makes sense to me. Doesn't seem that controversial. But while Elizabeth Warren is crying about censorship, here's a real free speech threat happening right now in California. Gavin Newsom's California, which is on the verge of passing Senate Bill 771. Spencer Pratt breaks it down here. Check this out.
California Senator Henry Stern is trying to pass a law that would fine social media companies up to $1 million if a user's post can be construed the wrong way by politicians like him. Let me tell you a quick funny story about this Senator Henry Stern. When I was asking about the housing bill that Newsom was going to push through in Pacific Palisades, this Henry Stern made a post on his IG story, posting some fake news story about me from 15 years ago. And then when I posted about Henry Stern, guess what? I guess he went to all his little friends at the state Senate and he was like, we got to come up with a way where if Spencer Pratt says something about us and Newsom, we can get him deplatformed. So I'll be very concerned, because do you think TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or any of these companies are going to risk $1 million fine from Newsom because of something like Spencer Pratt posts on his TikTok? Of course not. They're going to get a notification email from the state of California that Spencer Pratt said this on TikTok. It's misinformation. Boom, my account will be gone on whatever page the video was. And since I post them on all my pages, I would lose all my social media. So make sure you call. Anybody can call, obviously. You don't have to be, but call California Senator Henry Stern, and you should just tell him he should throw his little bill in the trash. I know a lot of people are concerned about free speech. This seems like a speech issue we should be discussing.
And you know what? As unbelievable as it sounds, he is completely correct. I went to the California Legislative Information page to read more about this, and I will add this: SB 771 obviously doesn't directly censor you or me, but it does pressure the platforms. And what does a platform do whenever they face millions in penalties? What do? They silence the users. They silence you and me and delete accounts just to protect themselves. It's censorship by proxy, and it's disgusting. The government doesn't have to muzzle you. They just have to get the platforms to do it for them. This is when free speech dies, not when Jimmy Kimmel's show gets canceled or pulled from the air. Jimmy's going to be fine. This is about normal people. And where's Gavin Newsom during all this? Well, guess what? He's going on a late night show with Stephen Colbert. Instead of defending his residents' ability to speak freely, which should be priority number one, if you were to ask me, he's going on a late night show. You really cannot make this stuff up. And on top of that, he brought out AOC to pump up Prop 50, the ballot measure that'll redraw maps. What is this guy doing? Now, I want you to pay attention just for a moment, because I think this is a good contrast between the attention that SB 771 is getting versus Prop 50. Why? Because they're not worried about your speech. They're worried about their power. And speaking of power, look at this. Jim Jordan drops an absolute bombshell today about Google. Google admitted straight up that the Biden administration pressured them to censor lawful YouTube content. Think about that. You can go ahead and pause. We won't read everything, but think about it. This is the government leaning on technology companies to silence Americans. And now, thankfully, YouTube is course correcting. They are reinstating banned creators, committing to not use third-party fact checkers, and they're adopting something like X's community notes, which I actually think would be incredibly helpful to so many people, especially if you spend a lot of time on YouTube like I do. But as I begin to land this plane, I'd want to be super clear here. Elizabeth Warren and Gavin Newsom, they get all up in arms about people like Jimmy Kimmel and this idea of free speech. But when it comes to actual government censorship, like we're seeing with California, with SB 771 and President Biden's administration with Google, what do you hear from them? Zip, nada, zero, complete silence from their edge of politics, because they have nothing to say. Because if they admit to it, then they have to admit that their whole narrative collapses. And I also saw this that was hilarious. It's a viral tweet today. Democrats trying to explain why Jimmy Kimmel being fired is a free speech violation, but the Biden administration using Google, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube to silence conservatives is not a free speech violation. And look at them, just puzzled, silenced. Exactly. Mic drop. Anyways, that is the video. I'd love to know what you think about all this from Elizabeth Warren and Gavin Newsom, SB 771, and Google. And if you made it this far, please consider liking, subscribing, turn on the bell, and I'll see you next time. Episode's over already? Geez, that was fast. Well, they say beautiful things do not last forever, but feel free to watch and listen to another one of these episodes if you're interested in those conversations as well. Also, this next part is huge. Make sure to obliterate that like and subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never skip a beat. I also have a newsletter where we dive into the news, politics, and ideas that shape our future. If you're interested in signing up, I'd really appreciate that. Anyways, that's the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you next time.